All right. All right. Welcome, everyone. On behalf of the San Ramon and Danville Alamo branch and Walnut Creek branches of American Association of University Women, we'd like to welcome you to this special forum to learn about the candidates for San Ramon Valley Unified School District Board. Very important role and job in our community. Just a little bit about AAUW very briefly. American Association of University Women is a national organization. We were formed in 1881 and by a group of college women interested in educational issues. And we have 170,000 members and branches all over the United States. And our mission is to advance education, gender equity, and advance gender equity for women and girls through research, advocacy, and education. And our San Ramon branch was founded in 1982, and we have 102 members and growing. And 103? Oh, okay. All right. And if you're interested in getting involved with us at all, we have brochures up at the front desk. Our membership chair, Harvey Grimm, is here. And or ask any of us if you would like more information. And so now I'll go on to introduce Janet Hoy, who is going to be our moderator today. She's been involved with the League of Women Voters, who, I also forgot to say that we're doing this jointly with them and have been doing this for many years. She's been involved with them for over 10 years, and she primarily focuses on elections, working on education and advocacy. Janet has also been involved with leagues in both North Carolina and Georgia, and her professional background was in health insurance, the health insurance industry, working for insurance companies in a variety of regional roles, and working for a large integrated hospital system in San Diego. Big job. So without further ado, I will introduce Janet Hoy and turn it over to her.
Good morning. So glad you are here. Everyone can hear me? Yes. Yeah, cool. Okay. Thank you all for joining us today. The League of Women Voters Diablo Valley is partnering, as you know, with AAUW to conduct this forum. Just a quick moment about the League. Probably many of you know about the League. We are a 104-year-old organization that has been involved with education and advocacy during those 104 years. We are strictly nonpartisan. And by nonpartisan, we mean we never support or oppose candidates or parties, ever, in all those 104 years. We do, though, take positions on issues, as you probably know, and we are involved a lot in doing this kind of thing, a candidate forum, to help bring information from candidates to the local community in a way that is unbiased and transparent, and that is our goal today. The purpose of this forum, as you know, is to present to the community the candidates who are running for the San Ramon Valley Board of Education, areas 2 and 3. I wrote districts in here, so please forgive me in advance if I occasionally say districts. I wanted to tell you a little bit about what the Board of Education does. The Board of Education is a 5-person policy-making body which operates within the laws of the state of California as well as Contra Costa County. Each board member is elected for a 4-year term. Terms of office are staggered, with elections held every 2 years. The board is responsible for approving the district's budget and adopting all policies and curriculum. The authority of the board is as a whole, and no single board member may act as an official of the district except when the board meets in a regular or special session. The Board of Education is elected to represent all of the people in the school district. In making its decisions, the board is guided by what is in the best interest of the entire district. As you can see, we have 4 candidates here today. There are 2 candidates for Area 2 and 2 candidates for Area 3. I have drawn random numbers. It was actually with my husband in little Post-it notes. There were only 4 people, so it made it pretty easy to determine the order of speaking. Closing statements will be in the reverse order of the opening. I have also drawn randomly to determine the candidate who will answer the first question. We will then alternate, so we'll have folks from District 2 answer the question, and then folks from District 3. Same question. All questions must apply to all candidates. Let's see. We will then alternate. So I will ask candidate for District 2 each question and then do the same for 3. Then we'll start with 3 and then we'll do 2. So we're going a little bit back and forth. Each candidate will have 1.5 minutes to answer each question. We have volunteer timers who are in the back right there. They are Elizabeth Howell and Melanie Spear. When there is a 15 seconds before the time is up, a yellow card is going to go up. And when they are done, they've reached the end of their time, a red card will go up. And if they don't stop, I will politely say, excuse me, let's move on, or something like that, okay? But 1.5 minutes is a good time for people to answer questions. Any statements about opposing candidates must be verifiable in the public record, meaning a vote, a public statement, contributors, or contributions. Each candidate, this might be new, forgive me for not bringing this up before, each candidate is given the opportunity for 2 1-minute rebuttals during the program. Candidates must limit their rebuttal statement to correcting any mis- or disinformation from a prior speaker. That gives them an opportunity to respond more quickly if something comes up. As a reminder to our audience, if you have questions for the candidates, please write it on a 3x5 card. I think they were on every seat here, and Ann Flynn is there with cards. Questions are screened to avoid duplicates and conserve time. Therefore, a question may be a synthesis of like topic questions. We have to combine them. All candidates will reply to each question. If you submit a question, as I said, it will go to all the candidates. And we have 2 question sorters over here, Elsie Mills and Ashley Coates, who are going to be working on taking the questions from the audience, making sure they're generic enough to apply to all 4 candidates, and making sure it's appropriate for this setting. So that's their job. You might have noticed that Stan is back there with a camera. This forum is being recorded, and we ask that you please silence your phones. It never fails. Somebody's phone, sometimes mine, goes off during a session. Not a good look. Out of respect for the hard work that went into providing this forum and to ensure that there is no improper use of the forum's content, we ask that you do not film or record today's program. We also ask that you refrain from cheers or applause for statements in order to preserve the valuable minutes to hear the candidates' comments. And that's just human nature. Sometimes we want to do that, so we're asking for you respectfully to restrain yourselves. Thank you. Okay, did I cover everything, guys? Yes? Okay, good. Okay, we are now going to proceed with the 1.5 minute opening statements. And we are going to start with Area 2 and Karen.
All right, thank you. I'm Karen Shumway. I've been married for 19 years to my husband, Matt. We have 5 kids, currently all in the district, ranging in ages from a senior down to 4th grade. We've lived in 4 states and 3 countries and really value that experience to learn different cultures and get to know different people from different backgrounds. I'm running for the school board because I think it is vital to have skin in the game. And I have kids currently in the district. I think it's extremely important to have that representation on the board. It is a board of 5 people. And so I think having that parent representation there, because these are our children and our students that we're making decisions for. In the community, I've been a room mom several times. I coach, I chaperone, and I volunteer often. And I'm so grateful to be here. It's nice to meet you, and thanks for coming.
Thank you, Karen. Shelley.
Good morning, everybody. It has been an honor to serve on the San Ramon Valley Unified School District Board of Education since 2020, and I'm proud of the important work I've participated in over the past 4 years with a focus on creating an environment where every student can thrive academically, socially, and emotionally. One of my proudest achievements is our work on student wellness. We expanded mental health support by launching wellness centers at all of our high schools. We also strengthened student voice by adding a student board member and establishing a student senate, ensuring that students have a direct say in decisions affecting their education. Academically, we adopted our strategic directions and the learner profile, preparing students for the ever-changing world they will face when they leave our doors, while prioritizing equity by providing underrepresented students with the resources they need to succeed. We've invested in creating safer, more inclusive schools by championing diversity, equity, and inclusion. Throughout, we've been responsible stewards of our finances, ensuring resources are used effectively to support student success. As we look ahead, I remain committed to listening to the needs of our students, staff, and community, and to ensuring SRV USD continues to be a model of educational excellence.
Thank you, Shelley. And moving to Area 3, we're going to start with Laura.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. My name is Laura Bratt, and I am the current president of the San Ramon Valley Unified School District. I'm running for re-election in Doherty Valley's Area 3. I'm a parent. I have 4 what I call almost adults. I have 2 recent graduates of San Ramon Valley schools and twins who are seniors in high school. I'm very proud of the work I've been able to accomplish in these last 3.5 years as part of a strong governing board, working hard to ensure that our district provides high-quality education in a safe and supportive environment. I have championed initiatives grounded in deep learning and innovation, social emotional well-being, and equity so that each and every student can learn and so they can thrive. My collaborative efforts have yielded significant achievements, including the development of our strategic directions, a steadfast and strategic move back to in-person learning post-COVID, a renegotiation of superintendent and our assistant superintendent's contracts to cap salary increases, greater transparency, communication, and accountability, and increased student voice, including a student board member and a student senate with representatives from all of our secondary schools. These accomplishments reflect my dedication to our educational community. They highlight my passion for inclusive and supportive education for every student. And they show the experience I will bring to the board with a second term. I am a proven advocate for our students and their educational experience, and I would be forever grateful for your vote and your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Sukriti.
Good morning. Thank you for being here today. My name is Sukriti Sehgal. A little bit about myself. I was born and brought up in India. It was an academic environment with my father being a professor and then a chancellor at a university. My mother was an elementary school teacher. I got my bachelor's in India. After that, I moved to the US, got my master's at UC Davis. After that, I went on to work in the corporate world and also in the startup sector. I also had the opportunity to go back to UC Davis and teach as an adjunct professor. On the personal front, I've been in San Ramon with my husband for about 20 years now, and we have 2 lovely daughters. One is in elementary school, the other one just started high school. When my older one was in middle school, that's when we started hearing of problems and concerns, and that's when I started feeling that there was a gap between what our expectations were and what the current solutions were. And that's the gap that I really want to fill in. And my priorities are academic excellence. I want to make sure that we have the academic rigor going from elementary, middle to high school and beyond. I want to make sure that we support our students in their journey emotionally and with their mental health. And I truly believe it takes a village, and I really want to foster those true partnerships between parents, students, and teachers. Thank you.
Thank you, Sukriti. I'll do my best to ensure that each candidate answers each question. No candidates have seen the questions prior to the forum. Candidates, again, will have 1.5 minutes to answer each question. And I realize I failed to say, I don't even know if I gave you my name. I jumped right in. Janet Hoy, I think Sue had said that. I do not live in this district. I cannot vote in this district. I will not be voting in this race. I have never met any of these 4 women before, right? This is the first time. Okay, and we do that intentionally with the league. We have someone moderate who is not involved in that district's politics or political scene. Okay. Okay, so moving to the first question, we're going to start with Area 2, and Shelley, let me read you the question. What do you believe are the biggest issues facing San Ramon Valley Unified School District today?
I think right now the biggest issue is funding. Because of the way that we're funded by the state of California, we're dependent on them for at least 50% or more of our funding. And when the state goes into a deficit, we're affected negatively because they are not able to give as much money to schools. And this year is especially bad because we are also experiencing declining enrollment, as are pretty much most of the school districts in the state of California. We are not alone. So we're experiencing a deficit in the next coming school year, and we're going to need to make cuts. We've convened a budget committee that is comprised of parents, students, administrators, 2 board members and facilitators so that we can dive deeply into the budget to see where we can cut that will not reach classrooms. But as long as the funding is done the way it is through the state, we're at the mercy of how much money the state has versus how much we get. So right now, that's primary on our focus.
Thank you, Shelley. Karen?
Thank you. I agree with Shelley that our funding is a huge problem, and unfortunately, it's a complicated formula that the state uses, and the district and school board doesn't have a lot to say over that. But with that said, I think it's vital then that we take the funding we do get and we pay extreme close attention to how it's used. We can't control how much we get, but we can control how we spend it. So I think some of the issues that we're facing in the district right now are our academic scores are dropping. In the last 4 years, our test scores have dropped. Math, 7%, science, about 10%, ELA, 7%. Our LCAP and other district measures show that there's an increase in students not prepared and ready to go to college after they graduate. I also think we're in a financial crisis. We're coming in with a $16 million budget crisis. And I think that there needs to be accountability to the current board in the last few years to address this and own up to some of it. We've spent money on different measures that didn't pass that cost us millions of dollars. We've spent millions of dollars on liaisons that the district cut in the financial crisis. So this is so much money that we've been using that we have nothing to account for. And there is a huge decline in enrollment. And I think part of that too is that the current board voted to keep our kids out of school in COVID longer. And I think that has a direct correlation and impact to several of the students not enrolled anymore.
Thank you, Karen. Area 3, we'll start with Laura.
Thank you. To Shelley and to Shelley's point, budget is an issue, funding is an issue. I think with that, we need to look at our teacher retention and recruitment, and that comes down to money. We need to be able to pay our teachers more. We need to provide more support for them, our educators, our staff, so that they can truly educate and support our students. I think that when we look at the current state of funding in the state, we realize that we are not only one of the lowest funded in the state, we're one of the lowest funded in the country, and that does not allow us to be able to provide the type of education that we want to. When we look at our one-time COVID dollars that were mentioned, what we were able to do was we were able to meet our students where they were at the time around social emotional well-being. When we talk about equity liaisons, we're actually talking about MTSS liaisons who were able to intervene, whether it was with behavior, whether it was with ensuring equity so that everyone can access the education that they need in that moment. Whether it was intervention around early reading, intervention around math in high school, around transitions to each of our different levels of school. We need more money. We need more money. We need to vote yes on Measure Q. We need more money. We need to be able to pay our teachers more, and we need to be able to provide a truly supportive education for our students. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Mr. Creedy.
I'll try and be louder. Let me know if you don't hear me. I do agree with everybody. I think budget is definitely top of mind, and I think that's been covered. As far as I feel, I think all the cuts that would need to happen, I think should be furthest away from the classroom. Having said that, I think I want to draw attention to a couple of other points which are close to my heart. One is just looking at our curriculum. I feel today our high school it seems like we teach our children a lot in high school, but we are lacking on how we're building their foundation in middle school and elementary school. And I would like to redistribute that curriculum and make sure that we're building the right foundations from early on to make sure by the time they get to high school, they're well prepared and it does not cause them, undue stress. The other issue that that's again top of mind for me right now is with DVHS, just the area that I'm from, the DVHS just is very notorious for being a very high-stress school. And I've had cardiologists and I've had ophthalmologists just talking about, how stressful that school is. And they'll sit the child down and they'll give them a 15-minute lecture about, how to deal with stress. So those are some of the mental health issues that I want to address and make sure that doesn't continue.
Thank you, Sukriti. So that was our first question. Yay, we're through the first one. For the second question, we're going to start with Area 3, and we're going to start with Sukriti. Goes to you. What specific steps do you propose for changing or strengthening the district's academic programs?
Like I said, I feel we are very heavy on academics in the high school level. I do want to make sure that we are building those foundations by looking more at the curriculum in the middle school especially, and also in the elementary level. I think in today's world, when our students go out and compete for jobs in the market, we want them to be prepared. The world's getting smaller, and we have people competing from all over the world for jobs here. And we want to make sure that our students can stand up against them. And I feel, especially when it comes to science, I feel our students lag, compared to students who are coming in from Asia or other countries. And that's where I want to make sure that we're going out and building those foundations, bringing that into our curriculum, and just making our curriculum stronger to make sure that our students are prepared.
Thank you, Sukriti. And now Laura.
We need to teach our students how to learn how to learn. So we know that our future will be an ever-changing world. We see that just in the last few years. We certainly see that. I'm 55, and the world has changed dramatically. And then we look at these last few years, and it's just been exponential, right? So we know that our kindergartners today will enter a completely different world than what we see when they graduate from our schools. So they have to be able to navigate that ever-changing world. And in order to do that, they need to be curious, they need to be critical thinkers, and they need to be able to understand that they have the autonomy and the empowerment to be able to figure it out on their own. And that's what deep learning and innovation is all about. That's a core of our strategic directions. And when we look at the building thinking classrooms that we have in the middle schools and high schools, when we look at diversifying curriculum and making sure that our elementary schools that those students have opportunities to see the outside world and to better understand what it means to be different. When we think about how we learn and how our students understand project-based learning as opposed to just drill and kill learning, that's so incredibly valuable. And I know as a career person myself that when I enter a new job or when I work on a new project, I need to figure it out, and we need to make sure our students know how to do that as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Moving to Area 2, we'll start with Karen.
Can you repeat the question, Jenna?
Yes, of course. What specific steps do you propose for changing or strengthening the district's academic programs?
I think this has been touched on by a few of us, but I think we start with the teachers. We need to get really creative in how we're recruiting our teachers, and we need to be extremely firm in how we work to retain our teachers, our good quality teachers. So hiring teachers of merit and retaining them. I also think that it's important to make school somewhere the kids want to be, make it enjoyable for them and well-rounded, give the students lots of options so that when they're going to school, they can find what appeals to them. Not all of our students are going to be wanting to take the same courses or go down the same path. And so to have lots of options for them to engage, feel comfortable, and safe at school, I think it's important to diversify what they're learning too, with arts and music and fun classes like robotics or welding, or Shelley and I got to tour the mechanic side of SRV the other day, which was so fascinating. I come from two trade school parents. My dad's a mechanic, my mom's a beautician. They're both extremely successful, run their own businesses. And so I think I think our focus needs to be in the classrooms, students and teachers, and doing our best to retain the highest quality teachers and giving our students lots of options.
Thank you, Karen. And Shelley.
Academics is at the top of our pyramid of our strategic directions. Deep learning and innovation and academic excellence are at the top. Let me tell you what we've done this year. We've added new curricula in elementary school social studies, middle school social studies, elementary reading curricula based in the science of reading. We've designated English language learner curricula, secondary world language, TK psychomotor, and reading intervention curricula. We are constantly working on supporting our students academically in every way. And in order for them to succeed, they also have to be in a place emotionally and mentally so they can learn. So those two together, the social emotional piece and the academic excellence piece, where we actually work on this constantly. Our director of curriculum is amazing at the district. We're always looking at new ways to support our students. That's why 97% of our students graduate, and 95% of our students go to college. And those who don't go to college, we have offered them new pathways to have alternatives to a traditional four-year program.
Thank you, Shelley. For the next question, we're going to start with you, and we have two questions that are around budget. The first one is, San Ramon Valley School District is projecting a $16.5 to $23.3 million budget shortfall. What are your thoughts for addressing this shortfall?
Well, as I alluded to before, we have convened a budget committee, and right now, I think the most important thing to do is go over the budget with a fine-tooth comb to find ways, if we can, to be able to make cuts that will not hit the classroom. Now, I can't promise that. This is not the first time. This is not unique. This happened in 2008 and other times during the course of the district's being in existence. Again, not because of mismanagement or that our funds were not spent properly. If you look at our budget and you look at the way that we've spent funds, we've done it in response to what we think and we knew that the students needed at the time. So as the state personal income tax, state sales tax goes up and down, we go up and down with it. So that's why we find ourselves in this place. And declining enrollment, as I said, is all over the state. So we're going to be looking hard at the budget, $470 million budget. It takes a while to go through it, but we're committed to doing that. And I think by doing so, we'll come up with some good solutions so that we can make adjustments, hopefully, that won't hit the classroom.
Thank you, Shelley. Karen.
Thanks. So to start with the budget, I mean, we have Measure Q on the ballot in November, and if that continues and passes, then that's a great help to teachers and shortage. But with the current budget in the past, I think it's important to pay attention to where we've spent our money. You know, they tried to pass Measures E and F in April, and while those might have been great measures, that cost us $2 million. It was $1.4 million to do a special election, put that on the ballot, and another $700,000 used for a consultant. So we lost that $2 million, we didn't recoup any of that passing, and then they're not on the ballot in November because they already ran that election. So we need to pay attention where we're spending this money. And I agree with Shelley, it needs to stay to the closest to the classroom. And I haven't seen that in the past. I also think that if we're focusing on what students need at the time, information I've received from the district is that there's a difference between the MTSS liaisons and equity liaisons. And the MTSS liaisons that Laura touched on, that's helping with the academic recovery for our kids post-COVID and things. But the equity liaisons, I can't get a clear answer to what those were for, and we don't have them anymore, and we spent millions and millions on that. But I also think it's important to realize, too, that what the students needed most at the time 4 years ago was to get back in the classroom. They needed to be in the classroom. And how the funding works, something I would love to see is a change in how our schools are funded. We have this ADA funding per student that as they arrive to school. That makes my child feel like a dollar sign when they're not there, that we need to somehow change the way we are funded.
Thank you, Karen. Area 3, we'll start with Laura.
Our budget needs to reflect our values. We've built out our strategic directions to help us to navigate that. our essential value is that we need to center our students in every decision we make. And so that means in terms of our budget that we need to prioritize our funds towards our students in the classroom. To the point of our recent measure and the Measure Q, that's actually not additional money that we will be receiving, it's a renewal. So if we do not pass Measure Q, we will lose an additional 46. That number seems to change because of the high cost of teachers and inflation, but 46 teachers. And so that means that not only will we have the projected 16.5 million in budget cuts, but we'll have to create another 7 million in budget cuts each year. And so when we talk about spending a lot of money for election on a measure, we had to do that in order to ensure that we have this money moving forward, because unfortunately we don't have control over the amount of money that the state gives us, but we do have control over our local funding. I think that it's also important that we continue to advocate for funding. As Karen mentioned, we need to make sure that when we talk to our legislators, that we're letting them know that they have to fully fund our education. So, thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Sukriti?
I think I agree with what's been said before. The cuts need to happen, and the cuts need to happen furthest from the classroom. I think in an organization as large as this, there are always duplications. There's always creative ways to cut costs. And I would say, we need to go through this, with a fine-tooth comb and find those duplications and find creative ways to cut cost. In the past, when I worked in the corporate world, we would start a project, and before we even completed the project, we were already being asked to, cut costs. So you have to get creative in how you do it, and stay true to the business that we are in, which is of teaching and educating our children. And so whatever cuts need to happen should not compromise on the business of teaching, and that includes students and that includes teachers. And we, with a falling enrollment, we might need to right size, and if we need to make cuts, maybe that's where we look. There's software, there is other kinds of duplications which always occur, and the more creative we can get with this, that would be where we look for the dollars.
Thank you, Sukriti. For the next question, which is also in the budget category, we're going to start with you, Sukriti. San Ramon Valley School District manages an annual budget of $400 million. Understanding budget issues and constraints and the district's financial statements are an important part of the trustee's role. Can you please describe your experience managing or overseeing budgets within the school district or elsewhere? Start with you.
So I would go back to my experience in the corporate and the startup world. I was managing teams where I'm a food scientist, and I worked in CPG companies where we launched food products. And I've managed projects where we were launching products, and several $1 million, not $400 million, but several $1 million, and just making sure that we were profitable at the end of it. We had to deliver on a 50% profit margin, and we had to deliver that, and we had to go, as we were developing the products, as we were scaling up the products, as we were taking it to market, we had to make sure that all these, we were eventually able to deliver on the profit margins. So I am familiar with, being able to manage budgets. At the same time, I would say when it comes to the district, I would rely on the district and the superintendent's office and the accounting department to look after the budget. And I think our job as representatives of the community would be to ask the right questions and make sure that what they're doing makes sense.
Thank you, Sukriti. Laura?
I've been on the board for 4 years and have worked hard to learn about our budget. Prior to being on the board, I was on the LCAP committee. I was on school site committees, both in San Ramon Valley and down in Southern California in Capistrano Unified. I was a president of an ed fund for a Mandarin immersion program down in Capistrano. So I had some experience prior to coming on the board, and since being on the board, I've been able to take numerous workshops to learn about our funding from the state. I've also successfully been a part of advocating for raising our base. Our district is one of the lowest funded because we do not have what's called many unduplicated students. And so therefore, we don't get extra dollars. And so that base from the state needs to be a base that's essentially a living wage for our school district, right? It's a living wage for each student so they can have the education, the basic needs, basic education. Our base does not provide that. And so raising that has been incredibly important. We were able to do that, I think 2 years ago when there was this influx of money at the state. Now we're seeing that those COLAs aren't increasing because of sales tax and income tax. To the point of the shortfalls and where we would cut, I think one of the things that we need to look at with our steering committee is looking at some of our administration and looking at where we can cut there a little bit so that we can ensure that our funds end up in our classrooms. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Laura. Moving to area 2, we'll start with Karen.
I'm first going to piggyback on the last comment Laura said. She reminded me that I agree that we need to look at our admins, where we're going to cut financially. I've talked to friends that work teachers in our local school districts, and some of these sites have 4-to-1 admins to teachers. And they were even asked, like, hey, would you like an admin for this grade level? And all of the teachers said, no, we don't have use for it, and yet they got one anyway. So that's somewhere that we could cut. So my experience, I've never worked with a $400 million budget, admittedly, but we do live here in an expensive part of the country on a modest for the area income with 5 kids, a single income. And so I know the importance of looking at the money coming in and the money going out. And we've been able to live debt-free for several years now. But I do think it is important to realize, too, that this is a board of 5 members. And in addition to that, we have the support of the district staff. Sukriti and I were able to meet with our new superintendent and all of the different offices at the district. And so I would rely heavily on them to give us the information needed. And I think transparency is really key in making these decisions. We need to know how much money we have, how much money's coming in, how it's going out, and where it's going. And so I think that, I also will rely on these workshops that both Shelley and Laura have had the opportunity to go to over their 4 years of experience on the board, and plan to learn from those as well and do the best I can to be transparent with the community about where our money's going.
Great, thank you, Karen. And Shelley.
Yeah, so I'm a CFO for a small tech company, $30 million in sales per year. So it's part of my professional life that I deal with budgets and money. Prior to coming onto the board, I was chair of the Parcel Tax Oversight Committee, where we analyze the budget every year and we make sure that the parcel tax money is being spent in the way that it was supposed to be spent per the ballot measure. I also was on the vice chair of the Facilities Oversight Committee for 2 years before becoming a board member, where we actually managed the bond funds that improve all of our facilities in the district. So I had a lot of experience with the district budget before I became a board member, in addition to my professional life. After becoming a board member, I took the Masters in Governance course from the California School Boards Association, which basically covers everything about governance and being a school board member. And as Laura alluded to and Karen did, we have a CBO, a chief business officer, and a director who give us information that we depend on, because our job is not to micromanage and try to figure out the budget. That's their job. They're the administrators that we depend on when we make decisions. And I feel like I'm very well qualified to do that.
Great, thank you, Shelley. And we're going to start with you on this next question. And I think some of you have answered this already, but so we can get consistent answers. Any yes or no is just fine with this. You don't need to use all the time. In November, at the upcoming general election, voters are being asked to approve the continuation of the existing $144 million parcel tax for 9 years. Do you support or oppose Measure Q, and why?
Well, having been the chairperson for 3 years at the Parcel Tax Oversight Committee, I know how vitally important, especially now, that those funds are. They currently fund around 48 teachers, and when I came on to the Parcel Tax Oversight Committee, they were using that money for different things. And I, along with my other board members, decided that the best way to affect our students positively and to have the greatest impact was to make sure that they were paying for teachers. So I wholeheartedly support it, and I hope all of you will too.
Thank you, Shelley. Karen?
I also support Measure Q. I think our teachers are so vital and important to our schools. And I think along with these different measures that we go to support our teachers or to get funding from the community, even though it is a renewal, right, it's money that you've already been spending, I think part of that is we need to rebuild our community's faith in our schools and the academics and things that we're providing to the students so that more people will get on board to support these measures in the future. But yes, I do support Measure Q.
Great. Thank you, Karen. Laura?
Yes, I support Measure Q. I'm a big advocate for it. I've been walking and I post about it, and I'm very excited, and we need it. We need it. I do want to take a little bit of this time to kind of just talk a little bit about this idea of 4-to-1 administration. Administration, I guess you were alluding to, there's one administrator for every 4 teachers. Was that the reference?
So they were telling me,
Just a yes or no, so I don't lose my time. Yes, okay. So I was talking about actually district level staff. Our administration at our school sites is bare bones. It's bare bones. When we look at a school like Quail Run, which has 700 students, they have one principal who's new, and they have one assistant principal. That's it. They don't have we had to cut our MTSS liaisons because of our funding shortfall. They don't have any other administrative support. So when you talk about one administrator for every 4 teachers, I don't see those numbers in the perspective that I have on our budget. So thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Sukriti?
I would support Measure Q. I think especially it's important this year when there's going to be cuts elsewhere. We do need the money. So I support, and I hope the community would as well.
Great. Thank you, Sukriti. We're going to start with you for the next question, and we're moving into the topic of curriculum. California state law requires that all school districts provide a comprehensive sexual health education curriculum approved by the state. What are your thoughts on the most effective way to roll out this curriculum? You didn't hear it?
I didn't hear it. That's my fault.
Want me to repeat it? I'm happy to repeat it. Okay, of course. Let's see. California state law requires that all school districts provide a comprehensive sexual health education curriculum approved by the state. What are your thoughts on the most effective way to roll out this curriculum? And Sukriti, we start with you.
So I can tell you as a mom, I was nervous when I was told that we were going to be rolling out they were going to be talking to the kids about this topic in school, and as were a lot of other parents. And I absolutely support the the schools having the conversations with the children. I think what I would like to see is the parents being more involved. And I think the parents may, I know a lot of people in our community would like to have those conversations with the children first. I think it needs to be a partnership in how, we talk to the students about it. It's a sensitive topic, and you want to make sure that the children are given the information as you want them to be educated, you want them to know. But I think the parents need to be more involved, and also I think we need to be sensitive about what age we're introducing this at, and that I feel might differ from community to community, and I think we need to talk to the students, parents about it.
Sorry, I just looked up too. Laura?
We've had sex ed in schools for decades. I think that part of the struggle in today's day and age is the polarization around LGBTQ plus issues. I know that there is a difference between sex and identity. And I also know that we are human beings that have, and our children need to have body autonomy, and they need to understand how their bodies work. That's what sex ed is for in 5th grade. That's what sex ed is for in middle school. Sharing information about the differences that our students have, who they are, the differences in the world, is not about sexualizing them. It's about preparing our youth so that they understand that there are people that may be different from them, that may identify differently than them, that may express themselves differently, and to not have built-in bias, built-in shame, or built-in stigma because they haven't been educated about it. It's not about indoctrination. It's not about making. My son's transgender. My other 3 kids have been around a transgender person. They've learned about it from the time they were little, and they're not transgender. They're just kids. So I think that sex education is very important. I do agree that we need to partner with parents, and we need to ensure that they have a full understanding of what we're teaching and that they have the option to opt out. But that doesn't mean that we should limit the opportunities for all of our students.
Thank you, Laura. Karen?
Yeah, I think, sexual education is important. I also think there is age appropriateness to these conversations, and I think that it needs to be science-based, and I think it needs to be transparent, that if this is going to be taught in the schools, then the parents need to know what the teachers are teaching our children. I also think it's really important to realize that you're teaching a classroom full of kids something that, these different subjects, they're all at different maturity levels. They have different experiences in their home. And I think a lot of these conversations, like Sukriti was saying, the parents want to have these conversations with their children first. And a lot of this material is being introduced to children young before they even have their 5th grade, their early maturation programs. And so I think that, these things are important to learn, but I think there's an appropriate way to teach them and to learn, to have these students be introduced to them. And I think that above all else, for me, it's transparency between the schools and the parents. And the parents are aware of what's being taught to their kids, when and how. And then if it is something that they're uncomfortable with for any reason, that is up to them. Each home gets to decide for their families how they want to have these conversations. And so if the teachers are transparent and stick to what they say they're going to be having this discussion with our kids about, that parent has the right to choose if a child's going to attend that class or not. That is the fundamental right of parents.
Thank you, Karen. Shelley?
Well, I think if you're uncomfortable about anything that your child is experiencing, you need to talk to their teacher. And we have policies in place for parents to be able to do that easily, and if that doesn't work, there's a hierarchy for it. Under the California Healthy Youth Act, enacted in 2016, all instruction materials in grades K through 12 must be inclusive of LGBTQ students. This means that schools must teach all sexual orientations and what being LGBTQ plus means, according to the Department of Education. State guidelines note that second graders, by studying the stories of a diverse collection of families, including those with lesbian, gay, bisexual, or transgender parents and their children, can both locate themselves and their own families in history and learn about the lives and historical struggles of their peers. Parents or guardians can opt out of lessons about comprehensive sexual health and HIV prevention education, but not out of instruction that references gender identity, and sexual orientation. And that is what our district does. We have rolled this out already. We have been doing it for many years now. This was enacted in 2016, and I think we're doing it well.
Thank you, Shelley. Next question is for you, and it's the second one on curriculum. California state law requires all school districts to include an ethnic studies course with approved curricula and texts by the 2025-2026 school year. What is your position on this new program?
Well, our school district started this a couple years ago in anticipation of the new law. And I have spent time, as has Laura, with our ethnic studies students. And what we hear from them is that they want to see curriculum that reflects who they are. They want to see themselves in the curriculum. They want to see their whatever ethnicity or group that they come from. So the district has taken many, many steps, especially in the last year or two, to make sure that our libraries and our curriculum are more diverse. Also, the ethnic studies students have talked about how they want more diversity in their teachers. So our HR department at the district has done many different programs and things to kind of think out of the box to make the district be able to attract more of a diverse teacher community. So that combination of things that we're doing is actually fulfilling that requirement, and our ethnic studies program has been, the curriculum has been worked on by many stakeholders.
Thank you, Shelley. Karen?
Like I mentioned earlier, we've lived in multiple countries and states. We've been here for 11 years, and I think that learning about different people or different cultures is so important and enriching. It's so lovely. It's one of my greatest experiences my kids have had. So I love the idea of studying all different cultures, races, religions, backgrounds. I'm confused at, we'd offered this class for a few years and we had to drop it because of lack of enrollment in the class. And so that doesn't make sense in my head that now it's mandated when it wasn't opted for. But that also, I need, there's more understanding. I need to compare the different classes and why that's the case. But I think it's important to learn history and cultures and learn about different people. And so,
Great. Thank you, Karen. Laura?
Just to the point about the ethnic studies class, the junior, senior class that we had and have in some of our schools still, it's a year long. That is an elective. Our schools, our juniors and seniors have heavy workloads and lots of AP classes, and sometimes it's hard to fit in a class like that. Requiring the ethnic studies is now a state law. We spent a lot of time as a board. We have it as a semester in 9th grade. It is replacing World Geo. It was a decision we had to make because, again, our students have heavy course load, and we need to make sure that we're doing what we're legally obligated to do, and also providing the best education that we can. Unfortunately, our education curriculum in the nation has been written through a white person's lens. So we have to have a class that looks at the curriculum through other ethnicities and teaches about those experiences and those perspectives. Having it in the 9th grade, I think, has been a wonderful opportunity for us. We know that all of us have students. All of us have students that have now entered into high school or have graduated, and we know that 8th to 9th grade year is a pretty big transition time. And it's a time when our students go from being in smaller cohorts into this huge space, right? Our high schools have 2,000, 3,000 students. And so being able to have that foundation in the 9th grade of, this is what diversity looks like, this is how we talk about it, is going to be extremely helpful for the culture of our schools. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Sukriti?
So since it's a law now, we will be teaching it, and I absolutely love the idea. Having, especially from the community that I come from, when I look at that area, I would be so happy if my children, they're growing up here, but I would love for them to know the culture that they're from, and as would, people from other countries in the Eastern Hemisphere. And I think when you learn about somebody's culture, I think when you go into a room and you talk to people, I think it makes you more empathetic. I think you come across smart when you talk to somebody about something that is from their culture. So I absolutely support it. The couple of things that I've heard is there's, I believe, 2 ways to present the material. One way is to teach them about the culture and just the facts. This is, these were the kings, and this is where you come from. This is what the culture is about. And the other way is to tell you about how oppressed you were, and how the whole world has done you wrong. And that latter part is something that I do not agree with. I have never felt oppressed. I do not want to teach my children or my girls that they are oppressed or should be oppressed or were oppressed. I want them to feel, if oppression happens, you should know how to handle it, but we don't want to teach our kids that, you are oppressed. So.
Great, thank you, Sukriti.
Can I do my quick little, I just want to
Rebuttal?
add to her. Yeah,
Yes,
and it's
you have
not a
1 minute.
rebuttal, it's more of a broadening of that perspective. So I think that that's why there's value in ethnic studies and really focusing on the ethnicities through their lens, right? I think, unfortunately, let's talk about Jewish heritage. And what we learn in our schools is about the Holocaust. It's about oppression. It's not about all of the wonderful things that the Jewish diaspora has across this world, right? It's this opportunity to be able to really be able to focus and shine a light on the amazingness of our diversity and not just see it as this is what happened, this was done to you, and this happened to you, that type of thing. So that's.
Great, thank you. Next question, we'll start with you, Sukriti. This is one directly from the audience. The role of the school board is to ensure that school districts are responsive to the values, beliefs, and priorities of their communities. How important is the perspective of parents of currently enrolled students when it comes to making policy decisions? Start with you.
I think that's critical. I think I think, like I said, it takes a village. Parents have to be involved, and as a board member, that's what your role is. You're representing your community. That's the voice you're bringing to the table. And that is why it's not an appointed position, it's an elected position. And that's the voice you need to bring. So I absolutely support that. And I think what you're alluding to is, this is something it's a tricky situation where, this is part of the general elections. The people who are voting for this are people who are citizens. A lot of people in our community are green card holders, and although they have children in the district, in the schools, they don't really get to vote on who they're choosing to be their representative. And if we can, that is something I would like to see change, because I feel the people whose voice we need to bring are the parents. And if you're cutting them out of the equation, then you're kind of doing yourself a disservice.
Thank you, Sukriti. Laura.
Yeah, and I would add to that students too. I know, I don't know if it's Oakland or San Francisco, they passed an ordinance where students 16 and 17, I think, students can vote in the student board elections. And I think that's valuable as well. I think that in these last 4 years, I know as a parent myself, how valuable it has been to be a parent with students in our schools on the board. And I and the rest of the board have worked hard to be able to provide opportunities for what we call shared leadership, opportunities for our parents. Not every parent has the time or the bandwidth or the strength of mind to be able to be a board member to run for election, right? But they still deserve to have a voice in the decisions that we make. And so we have been able to set up a structure of steering committees where we have representatives of parents, and it's not just, we do our best, sometimes it's a little difficult, but we do our best to be able to reach out to the community. What I say, reach into the corners, reach under the rocks, find those parents that just need a nudge to be able to come and be a part of it, or they need a little bit of support to be able to step into that space, or a little bit of empowerment to be able to do that. And so we've worked hard to do that and to provide those opportunities for our parents. It's imperative that our parents understand what's happening, that they trust what the board and what the district are doing, because our parents are passionate about their kids, as they should be. We want to live in a community where our parents want to know exactly what's happening. They want to have the best education for their kids, and they want their kids to thrive. And it's important for them to be involved in that at every step. So,
Thank you, Laura. Karen.
Thank you. This question's the entire purpose of me doing this. I think it's vital for parents to be involved on the school board level. Like I said before, I've got 5 kids. I've got 2 at the high school, 2 at the middle school, and 1 in elementary school. I literally see and hear what is going on in their lives every day as they're experiencing it. I think that we need that fresh perspective. I graduated high school 20 years ago. I just had my 20th high school reunion this summer. Not that long ago, considering I have a senior. and it's vastly different. The advances in technology, what our kids are being exposed to, the way they're learning, it's so different than when I was in high school. And so I think it's crucial to have someone who sees that firsthand and understands the strengths that our kids have, but also the challenges that they face, and someone who's in it. And a huge part of me doing this too is I am not a politician in any way of the, I can't think of the right words right now, but at all. But I'm doing this because, like Laura said, these board meetings are long. We don't all, as parents, have time to attend these meetings or to listen to these meetings. We're raising our kids, we're going to their events, their practices, everything. I'm doing this to be both ears and a voice for parents in the community that are like me and want to be involved. And so I can communicate and be transparent in what's happening in our district, and also take the needs of the community they can share with me, and I can take that to the board meetings, just as added perspective. And I think a parent's perspective and voice on the board is crucial.
Thank you, Karen. Shelley?
Well, before I became a board member, I was a parent, and I had two students that went all the way through SRV USD, and the experiences that I had were important because I know the whole process. I just want to talk for a minute about parent voice in our and what the district is doing, because I think it's important to know. There were 22 events hosted and co-hosted by SRV USD in 23-24. We had 2 thought exchanges, which involved parents. We did 4 surveys and 1 thought exchange in 23-24. Our superintendent regularly attends the affiliate meetings and the PTA meetings. Parents are welcome in PTA, booster groups, and ed funds at every school. And we have 9 committees where parents are welcomed regularly to participate and help make decisions. As a trustee, I was the first trustee to initiate office hours, which means that any parent in the district, if they have an issue or something they're concerned about or want to know something, they can contact me and I will meet with them personally or virtually. So there are many, many opportunities to participate in the district, and the way that I stay connected, I spend time with students. Every chance I get, every opportunity, I spend as much time as I can with students, because then I know what's going on in all of our schools.
Thank you, Shelley. The next question, we're going to start with you. Inclusion of particular books in school libraries has been a point of contention for some parents in the district. What are your thoughts about the role of the school board trustee in these debates?
San Ramon Valley Unified has a very stringent and well-thought-out policy when choosing books. In our secondary schools, we have teacher librarians, so these are certificated teachers. The process they go through when choosing books, they evaluate the value of the book, the age appropriateness of the book, they look at the author of the book, the academic value of the book, and they also go through several different websites and research to ascertain that the book is appropriate for the students that they are serving. They are professionals, they are trained, and as a board member, I look to them to establish the norms for books. That being said, we have instituted a new policy that gives them specific guidelines that they have to use if they're choosing books for a classroom. And if it's a classroom book that is being used for all students, it has to come before the Board of Education for approval. So I scrutinize all those books, and I make decisions based on the diversity of the book and the value of the book to the student and the age appropriateness, and all of those factors go into what we do when choosing books. But our staff is exemplary.
Thank you, Shelley. Karen.
When it comes to the books in our school libraries or in the classrooms, I think it's extremely important. We have limited space. This isn't a public library, so I think that, we need to go through the process Shelley's described and be diligent in the books that we choose and represent. I also think it comes down to transparency. Again, it bothers me when I get emails from the high school saying, your kids are missing these textbooks and these library books, but we can't tell you what library books they've checked out due to privacy. These are my children. I have a right to know what materials they're getting at the library. So I think that transparency is really important. And I also think that if there are books that are confrontational to a lot of teachers or the families and parents, that there needs to be a conversation about that maybe, and maybe communicated ahead of time that these are the books your child will be reading in class this week or exposed to, so that again, the parents and individual families can make those decisions based on their family needs and values or different circumstances at home.
Thank you, Karen. Laura?
I think we need to pull the veil off of what book banning is really about. 7 out of 10 books that have been banned in the last year, I guess, are about LGBTQ+. This is about culture wars. This isn't about our students in the classroom. We, as a board, spent over a year discussing how books are approved. I met with parents, I met with students, I met with teachers, I met with librarians. I asked them about that process. I asked them what would be best for this, ask the students what would be best for them, ask the parents what they need, ask the teachers and the librarians how the process works for them. And we were able to workshop it. We were able to have long discussions. I know I oftentimes sit on that dais and push back on the marginalization. It makes my heart sick. And I use my voice to protect those that don't have the power to be able to speak up about how access to a book has changed their life, has shown them how other people are, has shown them experiences so that they don't have to experience them themselves. I know that for my own kids, having access to books has been incredibly valuable for them. They're books. They're not monsters. They're not, I don't know, horrible, evil things that cause our children to do horrible things. They're just books. They're windows and mirrors, and it's important that we ensure that everyone has access. Thank you.
Can I use my rebuttal, please, Janet?
Yes, got 1 minute.
Okay, I just want to add to that they are books, but when you're bringing these books into young elementary classrooms without the parents knowing that these conversations are happening, these parents have a right to know that this material is being introduced to them. These children are 6 and 7 years old. Their brains are developing, that we have to also respect the part of our community that finds that confusing to their child, or that maybe wants to introduce these subjects to their children in their way. And be part of that conversation. So when a child is surprised by material that they've never heard of and go home's upset about it, and these parents are coming to the school board sharing these experiences with us, we also need to respect that. So we have a process, but I think we need to listen to all the families, and I think it's really important that they're aware of what their child is reading in class, and it's age appropriateness. These kids are so young to be given really complex situations to understand sometimes.
Thank you, Karen. Sukriti.
So I think when it comes to books, I think it's not about banning books, it's more about curating books. It's about, looking at what do we want to teach our kids, what are the values we want to instill, and we want to make sure that the books meet those values. And when I look for books for my child, I would, if there's a book about, a girl who learned how to, start a farm, or, fought a bear, like those are the ones I would, go for, rather than the ones that, teach you about, a girl with a pink house, with a room full of shoes and room full of clothes. So I think it's important to curate the right books. I think it's important that the books be age appropriate. I think it's important to be culturally sensitive. There was a book that I really loved about a girl having a name that was just different, that people didn't know how to pronounce. And so I think those kind of books are great. And we need to stay current with what's going on in the society. So, our society has progressed where we accept LGBTQ. And that is, so having books on that subject are, I think, are fine to have, and they should be. At the same time, I think, what might be acceptable to one may not be acceptable to the others. So the parents should be allowed to have that voice, and if they feel it's not all right for them, then they should be able to say no.
Oh, sorry. I thought it was coming from over there. Thank you, Sakriti. We're going to start with you on this one. 3 district schools, Greenbrook Elementary, Charlottewood Middle School, and San Ramon Valley High School, were recently added to the federal lawsuit in Kansas which seeks to block implementation of a new Title IX provisions that expand rights for LGBTQ students. Do you have a position on this? And if you don't, say no. Start with you.
So I'm not sure if I understand the question. From what I know and understand, I believe it's a law that was in place, which was modified, and it's being sent down by the state. And I guess as a district, we have to just say that, get on board. I don't know how much leeway we have in terms of how it's implemented or not, but I believe it's a law that's been passed down, and it's a modification. So that's the extent that I know.
Thank you. Laura?
Yeah, so we actually had discussed this at our last board meeting and approved the changes. We, quite honestly, whether we approved them or not, we were required to follow them. The new changes to Title IX essentially expand and become more inclusive to all who are marginalized. We oftentimes think of Title IX as girls in sports, and providing those opportunities for girls in the 70s to be able to, be on the soccer team or that type of thing. I was a part of that. I'm a child of the 70s and 80s. And it was transformative for our community and for our country, and we see that. There are other people in our country, other kids in our country who are marginalized, and this just expands that. This makes sure that whether you have a different religion, you have a different identity, you have a different sexuality, you have a different skin color, you have a different gender, you all are created equally, and there are supports in place to be able to ensure that legally public institutions like our school district are held accountable for ensuring that that inclusion happens and that those students are all supported. It was an easy yes for me, and it's important, and I'm grateful that the law is progressing in the same way that our community is evolving. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Karen?
I was at that last board meeting when they were talking about it, but I don't feel like I have enough information or adequate information to make a fair judgment call on what happened. I don't understand. I haven't seen the paperwork or know specifics about the lawsuits, and so I don't feel like it would be fair for me to respond.
Thank you, Karen. Shelley?
So California has already had a Title IX law that we were following. What happened is that the federal government stepped in and they made additions to that over and above what California has. So in order to be in compliance, we discussed it at our last meeting, and we have a compliance officer at the district who's also a lawyer who put it all together for us, and it was fully explained to us in the meeting by somebody who's basically an expert. And it was an easy yes for me also, because those extra protections are deserved by the students who we have in the district, and it's a compliance issue. And I think that the lawsuits are brought by an organization called Moms for Liberty, and they've singled out those particular schools. That particular lawsuit probably won't affect us if it ever does, but regardless, we adopted the new Title IX rules from the federal government in addition to what California has. And like I said, it was an easy yes for me.
Thank you, Shelley. Next question, we'll start with you. What would you do, or what would you propose to reduce the political divisiveness as it relates to our schools?
Well, I've tried to do the best I can to be available and open to our community, especially to our parents who have kids in school, by making myself available through office hours and being approachable. Also, student voice. Before Laura and I came on the board, there really wasn't much of a student voice in the district. And since we've been on the board, we have a student board member and we have a student senate, which is comprised of secondary students that represent all of our school sites. I regularly go to their meetings, and these young people are so extraordinary. It's part of my passion. They're part of my passion. They're what keep me doing this work, because they are very articulate, and they carry a lot of weight with me as far as their needs, how they articulate what they need, and being available to them and approachable to them is really, really important to me. I think it's unfortunate that school boards have become sort of a political hotbed at this point, and there's a lot of unwanted attention that I think is not good for students, is not good for the community, but we try to navigate that the best we can, and the question I ask myself is this the best decision for our students?
Thank you, Shelley. Karen.
Thank you. Well, Janet, when you introduced this and you talked about the League of Women and how strictly nonpartisan you are, I think it is really important to realize that that is how our local our local town council should be too, and the school board is supposed to be nonpartisan. And I think that coming into it as any sort of political affiliate does a disservice to a large portion of our community. And I also think that it starts in the home, and we have to be examples as adults and parents on how we treat other people, that learning about other people, it's important, and you can have your way of living your life, and that's great, and then you show kindness and respect to others and allow them the same privilege. This experience of running for the school board has been very eye-opening to me, and how politically divisive it is, and I don't understand that level of it. I don't understand the lies and the hatred and everything that comes with it. And I think that we as adults need to start by example. If we want our kids to be kind and inclusive, and we promote a very strict no-tolerance policy for bullying, which I love. And there's also the student-led anti-racism movement, SLAM, and different things. But I think it comes down to respecting others, but that doesn't, respecting others for the choices they make, and that starts with us being examples and allowing people to have those differences and create space for them in the community. And again, making sure that the school board and the schools and teachers is very nonpartisan.
Thank you, Karen. Laura.
As board trustees, we're entrusted with public education in our community. That's about our students. It's about how our students learn, how they experience their education, how they thrive, what they get out of their education. It's not about politics. I think there are times when school districts, when students become pawns for national politics, and we've seen that in these last few years, and it's heartbreaking. We need to make sure, I think I feel like all of us and everyone here would agree that we want every student to be able to learn, to be able to access education, to be able to feel safe, and to be able to thrive. And that's what our job is as board trustees, regardless of whether we're Republican, we're Democrat, whether we have our own moral or religious track values. We still need to look at the whole student educational system, and we need to be able to lead in a way that is best for each and every one of our students, not just our own students individually.
Thank you, Laura. Secreti.
I think there is absolutely no place for politics and partisanship in schools. I think schools are for everybody, and whatever party is being favored in your home, that should stay at home. There is absolutely no place for that in schools. And I think as a society, I think we're just in a very awkward phase right now where there is so much divisiveness, and I really hope it's a phase. And I think as what we can do right now is educate our children, and I love the idea of the ethnic studies program, and we can build that empathy, and we can educate our children so that by the time they go out into the world, this phase would be over and done with, and we can, kind of move forward together. So,
Thank you, Secreti. I think we have time we may go a tiny bit over. Is that okay? Everybody? Okay. I'm going to do one more question, and then we'll do closing statements. So we'll start, Secreti, with you. And this is a biggie. You have some time to answer it, though. What are your approaches for helping keep our schools safe?
I feel the hardware is important, right? You have your fences, you have your cameras, you have your training, you have your drills. I think that's important. But I think every time, with all the incidents that have happened, there have been red flags. Every time you go, there's a postmortem about what happened. There were always red flags. And I feel that if we work together, like I said, it takes a village, and if we work together as parents and students and teachers, and we are connected with the students, we can see when there's something going off track with a particular child, and we need to work together. And if there is something, a child is just not feeling the same, or something's happening or something's going on, the teachers can watch out, and they can work with the parents. And I feel those red flags should not be ignored, because every time you go back and hear something, it was some red flag that was ignored. And that's where I feel we need to, just be so together as parents, teachers, and students that we don't, miss this.
Great, thank you, Sukriti. Laura.
So we work hard as a board to make sure that our schools are safe. In this day and age, it's difficult. We hear, as parents, it's heartbreaking when we hear about school shootings across the country, and as board members worry about what might happen here. And so we work to build, and we have strong relationships with our police departments. We have, over the course of these last few years, there's been a couple of threats, and our police officers are there all the time. They're right there. They investigate. We're aware of things. We reach out to the community and make sure that parents are aware of what's happening and get notifications as it develops, so that as parents, we know what's happening on that school site. If our students, our kids are locked down, why, how long it's going to last, when it's lifted, all of those things. We've also spent a lot of time and money building out our infrastructure, our facilities, so that we have fencing all around our schools, that we have perimeter and internal fencing, so that there's a way for our school sites to be used both by the community and be secure for our school sites. Our staff is trained, and it's just important that we make sure that we provide the mental health supports as well, so that our students feel safe inside, so that they don't feel like they have to push back on the external side. So.
Thank you, Laura. Karen.
If only there was a 60-second answer to such a heavy subject. I agree. Sukriti and I got to meet with the superintendent and staff, and he went over these things because it was not long after a recent shooting. And they do have a really remarkable relationship with our community, first responders and things. Sorry, this is a heavy one. I think Sukriti hit on it too, that we have to pay attention. I believe there's an effort in the district, see something, say something. So if you know of someone who's unwell or who've maybe made comments or threats, then that needs to be addressed and taken seriously. I have good friends who lost their niece in the Sandy Hook shooting, and that school was so locked down, right? So that it's impossible to answer this question, but we need to be there for each other. We need to reach out to the one. We need to be kind. And if you see something, then you need to say something. Like Sukriti said, we can't ignore those red flags, and we just need to keep building our relationships and support of the first responders in our trainings. But I wish I had a more all-encompassing answer to help it stop. But our kids definitely deserve to feel safe at school, physically, mentally, emotionally, all of it. It's important.
Thank you, Karen. Shelley.
Well, there's two kinds of safety: physical and emotional, mental. And we have comprehensive plans, individual safety plans for every single school site. And they are so comprehensive that our superintendent was recently contacted to be interviewed, because the news station that contacted him was so impressed with our safety plans for each of our schools. So I feel really good about that, because as Laura alluded to, all of our police departments are there on the spot, and when we get any kind of threat, even if it doesn't seem like it's real, they respond and we respond immediately. The other piece of it is the mental health, emotional part of it. And we have started so many great programs in our schools. In our elementary schools, No Place for Hate. In our high schools, we have the Safe Ambassador program where other students help other students. SLAM, as Karen mentioned, student leaders, anti-racist movement, so that we can address some of the issues that come up around racism. I advocated for a peer counseling class at our high schools where students are trained to help other students that are struggling. There's many other things that we're doing in addition to those, because I've run out of time to tell you about, but we take both of those very, very seriously.
Thank you, Shelley. We still have closing statements, but how about a quick round of applause for these gals? Okay, now we have closing statements. You each have 2 minutes, and we are going to start with Sukriti.
So thank you for the past hour and sitting patiently and listening to us. So in closing, I would just like to say, with 2 kids in the school here, I do have skin in the game, and I really care about the future success of this district. I don't work at the superficial level. I don't work to check boxes. I believe in understanding what the problem is and truly going down and making a meaningful change. And you would feel a difference quickly. I know how to lead teams with diverse ideas and ideologies. I know how to work together to bring holistic solutions. I also believe and I know how to get things done on a timeline that's both realistic and meaningful. And I'm proud to represent the Asian American community. I understand the expectations and aspirations that we have, and I think as a board we would be richer to have our voice on the table and from our perspective. Thank you.
Thank you, Sukriti. Laura.
Thank you to the AAUW and the League of Women Voters for holding this forum, and for everyone for coming. As a parent and a district leader, I believe that it is imperative that we inspire all of our wonderfully individual students to see a bright future for themselves, that we provide an excellent education with a high level of rigor that prepares and empowers our students for whatever they choose as their next step after high school or adult transition. We need to continue to be at the forefront of deep learning and innovation, teaching our students how to learn so that they can be prepared for an ever-changing future. We have to support our students' social emotional well-being and their mental health so they can be happy, healthy, and fulfilled. And we need to ensure authentic and truly supportive equity and inclusion for every single child, even when it makes the adults in the room a little uncomfortable. I believe that we all want this for our students. During my first term, you have seen me ask the questions that need to be asked, use my voice to uplift and center our amazing students, listen to our staff, students, parents, caregivers, and community members, and bring the insights that I gather into our boardroom as I discuss the issues with my fellow board members and make some really tough decisions. This work ethic, my accomplishments in my first term, and what we discussed today reflect my dedication to our educational community. They highlight my passion for inclusive and supportive education for all. And they show the experience I will bring to the board with a second term. I will strive to make our great schools even better and navigate the future shifts in funding. I am a proven advocate for our students and their educational experience, and I would be grateful for your vote. You can learn more about me and my campaign at votelaurabrat.com, and you can find me on Instagram and Facebook at Trustee Brett. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Next is Shelley.
Well, in closing, I want to thank the AAUW and the League of Women Voters for providing me this opportunity to address our community, and to all of you for coming today. Before being elected to the board, I spent 15 years as an active parent leader in our district, serving on the Parcel Tax Oversight Committee, the Facilities Oversight Committee, PTA president at 2 schools, Ed Fund president at another school, with both of my children attending SRVUSD schools from kindergarten through high school. As we look ahead, there are many challenges facing our district, and it's crucial that we have experienced, committed, and knowledgeable leadership to navigate them. Being a board member comes with a steep learning curve and a significant time commitment. I am proud to have gained that experience and remain deeply committed to continuing the important work we've started. Our goal has been to ensure that all students thrive, academically, emotionally, and mentally. We've laid a strong foundation for student success, and I am eager to keep building on that work. I ask for your vote so we can continue this progress and ensure the best possible future for all of our students. You can find me at Shelley Clark for srvusd.org.
Thank you,
Thank
Shelley.
you.
Karen.
Yes, thank you for hosting and moderating, Janet, and being here. I'm running for the school board because I'm a mom with 5 kids currently in the district. Some say she's just a mom. I say I'm nothing less than a mom. And who's going to fight harder for their kids and their students than their mother? These are my kids. These are my friends' kids. These are the kids of our community. And I think that the parents, we need to have a voice and a say on the school board to help make these decisions. My focus is to put our energy towards academic excellence so that when these kids graduate, they're prepared for their next chapters of life, whatever that might look like for the individual. Focus on financial responsibility and school safety for all of our kids. There is a steep learning curve. I've been drinking out of a fire hydrant the last 6 months since I agreed to do this, but I'm learning a lot, and I want to take the good that's happened in our district and the good things that we're working on and improve them and make them better. And I'm confident in my ability to learn at a quick pace and to understand what's going on at the district level. And I am so grateful for the opportunity I have to be a voice, a parent voice, a different perspective on the board. I think it's important to have different perspectives in the room when making decisions. And so I would love your support. I thank you for coming today, and you can check out my website as well at karenshumway.com. And I'm just grateful for this opportunity to throw my hat in the ring and make a better school experience in life for our students.
Thank you, Karen. So that concludes our program. I want to thank our partner AAUW for hosting this forum along with the League. And I want to thank all of you for being here today and for engaging in this process with your very respectful attention and lots of questions. I couldn't get to all of the questions, of course. There were a whole bunch of them. But I think many of our candidates might be willing to stay and answer your questions afterwards. And it wouldn't be the League unless I reminded you about the election. November 5th is Election Day. Ballots are going to be mailed very shortly, October 7th. Early voting sites open the weekend before November 5th. So I think it's Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. I'm looking at Sean. I think I got it right. Please use vote411.org. That's the number 4, the number 11.org. It is the League's nonpartisan, non-biased electronic voting information system. You can get your ballot. You can hear directly from candidates who fill out in their own words what their positions and their own statements are. We don't correct for spelling or punctuation or anything. And you can read about the 10 statewide ballot propositions. Some of them, well, all of them are important. A few of them are sort of cryptic and a little complex. You gotta read through a lot. What we hope to do is to sort of narrow that down and give you better information, a little more condensed information on the website. So please check it out, vote411.org. And thank you again, and one more round of applause for our candidates.